Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a third year history student and I am running to be education officer at the LSE for the upcoming year. Before I was at LSE, I went to the University of Manchester and sadly I had to drop out due to a lack of educational and pastoral support. As such, I understand the importance of this support for students to achieve academic success. After that, I became a teacher in higher education, teaching both academic subjects and more social and practical subjects such as sex education, consent education, and life skills like taxes and job applications. Additionally, alongside this, I worked in an administrative educational office working on curriculums. As such, I feel like I can bridge a gap between the student experience, the teaching experience, and the administrative side within the educational departments at LSE. Since I've been at LSE, I've been very involved in a lot of SU activities through clubs and societies, several of whom I've been in the committees for, and I've loved every second of it. This year especially, I worked in the consent education project for the first years and many of the sports societies, and as such got a first-hand look into how a sabbatical run programme can really function, how it can develop, and what improvements could potentially be made in the future. Alongside this year, I set up my own student-led campaign called LSEX, a student-led campaign in practical sex education that looks at the fact that LSE students are incredibly diverse in their educational backgrounds, their cultural backgrounds, and in their life experiences, and the education that we provide should be practical and accessible to all. If you vote me in as your education officer, I have several goals that I would wish to achieve in the next year. The first thing that I'd like to achieve is to review the way that students are compensated for losses over periods of strikes. So at the moment, there's a lot of academic loss that's going on in terms of content, seminars and lectures due to academic strikes. And at the moment, there is no way that the university is acting to compensate students for these losses, whether that be financially or in some way by making up for it in another academic sense. And I believe that if we're paying full tuition fees, we should be compensated for the time that we're losing, as often it can be as much as several months over the course of the year. Secondly, I believe that there is a need for reviewing how we train our GTAs, graduate teaching assistants, which is when you have a PhD student teaching seminar classes. We need to review and assess their teacher training and the support that's given to them during the time of their teaching, not only for the students' benefit, but also so the GTA themselves feels better supported and everyone can get a better educational outcome. I believe that practical education, in addition to academic education, is very important for student success. And because of that, I believe it's important to have a goal that we better promote existing practical provisions for students, be that things like the Digital Skills Lab or LSEX, but also to introduce new practical skills that otherwise students might not necessarily have access to. So things like introducing at the SU night classes in disciplines such as BSL, British Sign Language, or even more practical aspects of life such as financial advice or even cooking. On that note, as someone who was a teacher for the consent education programme this year, I believe that we need to continue this programme as it's super important in the practical lives of students, but that we also need to refine it. And as someone who worked on it this year, I have a unique insight in how we can best do that. Finally, I believe that it's important that we improve support for students who are studying multidisciplinary or joint honour courses. In my first year, I did a joint honours course and I felt very neglected by the department that I wasn't under. I wasn't invited to social events, speaker events, or even essay writing workshops. I think it's really important that even if a student is a member of two different departments, that they feel supported and included within all departments so that they can gain the best educational outcome possible. Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you identify with any of these points, please make sure to vote Hannah as your #1 option for Education Officer, because Han has a plan.